The oldest tablet or inscription mentioning any god is typically considered to be Anu, the sky god, worshipped by the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, around 4000 BCE, 6,000 years ago. Anu was a part of the Sumerian pantheon and later incorporated into the pantheon of other civilizations in the region, such as the Akkadians and Babylonians. And this concept of Anu influences religions in the world right now, today. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and even Buddhism. Anu was believed to be the father of the gods and ruler of the heavens. There may have been older gods and older deities worshipped by prehistoric cultures, which I've mentioned in previous videos, but these do not show up in written records. Archaeological evidence suggests that the religious beliefs and practices existed long before the invention of writing. However, within the realm of written records, it is Anu and his daughter Ishtar, the morning star, who show up in the beginning. The oldest tablet or inscription mentioning any god is Anu, who comes from the Sumerian city of Uruk and dates to around 2500 BCE. This tablet, known as the Uruk King List, is a historical document that lists the kings of Uruk in chronological order. Among the names of its kings, therefore, is a reference to Anu, indicating his prominence as the deity in the beginning of time. Anu is mentioned in several other ancient Sumerian texts, such as the hymns and prayers and myths, which provide further insights into his role and significance of the god of the Sumerian religious beliefs. These texts were written on clay tablets and have been discovered at various archaeological sites in Mesopotamia, including the cities of Nippur, Ur, and Eridu. It's worth noting that these inscriptions and tablets are the oldest known references to Anu specifically, but it is likely that the worship of Anu predates these written records, possibly by several centuries or more. Anu is considered the god of the heavens, and his name translated as sky or firmament, and it comes from the word An, which is represented by a cuneiform logogram that is interchangeable with the word Digir, which means God, and it is theorized that the word An is actually cognate with the Proto-Indo-European root word for one, which is also An or Ein, showing that Anu is the possible proto-monad concept of the one. And what's even more mind-blowing about this is the rarity of common elements between Sumerian languages and Proto-Indo-European languages, mostly separate language families. And when there's a word that is cognate between these two language families, that this is as ancient as we can possibly imagine. Anu is the son of Anshar or Kishar, who are primordial deities associated with the horizon and earth. Anu is depicted as the mighty and wise god who resides in the highest heaven, ruling over other gods. He is often portrayed as the father or progenitor of other deities, including Enlil and Ea, also known as Enki. Anu's role as the supreme deity is sometimes overshadowed by other gods, such as Enlil or Marduk, who gained more prominence in later periods. Nevertheless, Anu retains his status as the head of the pantheon and ultimate authority of heaven. Anu's role in the divine hierarchy is also reflected in Mesopotamian cosmology, where he occupies the highest level of the universe, separated from the earth and its inhabitants. He is associated with the celestial realm, divine laws, and ordering of the cosmos. In the Akkadian mythology of Babylon, Anu is considered the chief god and the father of all gods. He plays a crucial role in the creation story, known as the Enuma Elish, where he gives birth to the god Ea and grants him authority over the earth. The Greek god Ouranos seems to have a similar role as the firmament or the heavens god. Both Anu and Ouranos are considered to be the personifications of the sky or the firmament, and they're both regarded as sky kings. They are associated with the heavens and are seen as the rulers of the celestial realm. Both Anu and Ouranos are considered to be the primordial deities, existing at the beginning of creation. They are among the earliest divine beings in their respective mythologies. Anu and Ouranos are depicted as fathers of major deities in their pantheons. Anu is the father of Enlil and Ea, while Ouranos is the father of the Titans, including Kronos and Rhea. Physically, they are separated from the earth and its inhabitants, and Anu resides in the highest heaven, while Ouranos is depicted as an entity that covers and separates the earth from the heavens. These parallels suggest a common theme of a sky king figure with a paternal role and authority in these early mythologies of these early civilizations. Anu is associated with the concept of divine kingship. The king of Sumer was believed to derive his authority from Anu, the one who bestows kingship upon earthly rulers. In both cases, the concept of heavenly abode is present. Anu is described as residing in the highest heaven, known as the celestial abode or the heaven of Anu. And the name of Ouranos literally means heaven in Greek. The text of the New Testament in the Gospels, the word used by Jesus and Paul for kingdom of heaven, is translated from the Greek kingdom of Ouranos. This heavenly realm is depicted as a sacred and divine space separate from earth. Matthew 16:19, I will give to you the keys of the kingdom of the heavens, and whatever, if you might bind on the earth, will be bound in the heavens, and whatever you might loose on the earth will be loosed in the heavens. The phrase for kingdom of heavens in Greek, Basilias ton Ouranon. The word Ouranos is present for heavens 3 times in this passage. Bound in the heavens, Didemenon and tois Ouranos. Also at the end of this passage, loosed in the heavens, Leleumenon and tois Ouranos. So the word heaven for Ouranos, which is borrowed from the concept of Anu, or the One, is directly impacting the Christian religion, for the kingdom of heaven is the kingdom of Ouranos. Anu is credited with playing a role in the creation of the universe and the establishment of cosmic order. He is seen as the one who organizes and governs celestial bodies and heavenly cycles. Anu is associated with justice and the establishment of divine laws. He is seen as the ultimate arbiter of justice, ensuring that the order is maintained within the cosmos among the gods. He presides over divine assemblies where decisions and judgments are made. These gatherings of the gods include discussions, counsel, and determination of destinies. These aspects and beliefs about Anu can be found in various Sumerian texts, which give us insight into the understanding of Anu's role as the supreme god and his significance in the religious and cosmological framework of ancient Mesopotamia. Now, although Ouranos is usurped by Saturn, who takes the kingship of heaven from his father and castrates him, the god Anu, over time, is replaced by other deities who came after him and gained prominence and assumed more significant roles within the pantheon. These 2 primary gods who surpassed Anu in influence are Enlil and Marduk. Enlil, just like Saturn, is the son of Anu and was initially assigned the role of carrying out Anu's decision on Earth. However, as the mythological narratives developed, Enlil's importance grew, and he became associated with the forces of nature, particularly as the god of wind, storms, and agriculture. Enlil's authority expanded to to encompass the earth and its inhabitants, and eventually became the chief deity of the Sumerian pantheon. Despite this, Anu retains his position as the head of the pantheon, and Enlil's rise did not involve a direct usurpation of Anu's authority. Marduk's rise to prominence occurred in Babylonian mythology during the time of the Babylonian Empire. In the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, Marduk defeats the primordial goddess Tiamat and establishes himself as the supreme god. Marduk's ascendancy reflects the rise of Babylon as a major power in the region, while Marduk became the central figure in Babylonian pantheon. Anu retains his position as the father of the gods and the ruler of heaven, just as Uranos attains his status even after Saturn and Jove rule the heavens. Anu, like Uranos, continues to be known as the heaven's abode, but Marduk is identified with the celestial body of Saturn, showing his overlap and genetic connection to the Greek myths of Saturn and Uranos. In Mesopotamian mythology, the pantheon was dynamic, with the roles and prominence of gods evolving over time. This evolution was influenced by various factors, including shifts in the political power and assimilation of different cultures. While Enlil and Marduk may have surpassed Anu in certain aspects, Anu's position as the father of the gods and the ruler of the heavens remains significant throughout all of Mesopotamian mythology. The story of Saturn, also known as Kronos, usurping Uranos, is a part of Greek mythology recounted in Hesiod's Theogony and other ancient Greek texts. According to the myth, Uranos was the primordial god of the sky and ruled over the universe as its first original ruler. Uranos married Gaia, the goddess of the earth, and together they bore many children, including the Titans. However, Uranos was a harsh and oppressive ruler who feared his own children's power. He hid his children deep within Gaia's womb, causing her great pain and suffering. Gaia became resentful and plotted with her children to overthrow Uranos. The Titan Kronos, also known as Saturn, took lead in the rebellion against Uranos. Gaia fashioned a sickle and gave it to Kronos. With the sickle, Kronos castrated Uranos, severing his genitals and casting them into the sea. By castrating Uranos, Kronos symbolically emasculated him and seized his power. Kronos then became the ruler of the universe, taking Uranos' place as the new supreme god. Kronos then married his sister Rhea, and they became the rulers of the gods, known as the Titans. However, Kronos also became fearful of his children, and he worried that they would overthrow him, just as he had done with Uranos. As a result, Kronos swallowed each of his children, as they were born to prevent them from challenging his authority. This continued until Rhea devised a plan to save their youngest son, Zeus. Instead of giving Zeus to Kronos, Rhea hid the infant on the island of Crete, and instead, she presented Kronos with a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. Zeus eventually grew up and returned to confront Kronos. With the help of his siblings and other gods, Zeus waged a war against Kronos and the Titans, known as the Titanomachia. Zeus emerged victorious, overthrowing Kronos and banishing him to Tartarus, a deep abyss in the underworld. The myth of Saturn usurping Uranos reflects a common theme in Greek mythology of a younger generation of gods overthrowing and replacing the elder predecessors. This is what we see with Anu and Enlil and Marduk. It symbolizes the cyclical nature of power and a succession of ruling deities. Scholarly connections between the Greek myths and Sumerian mythology, particularly concerning these deities, Anu, Enlil, and Marduk, and the Greek pantheon, can be observed in terms of shared themes, archetypes, and potential cultural influences. Both Anu and Sumerian mythology and Uranos, sky gods, father gods, holding the position of primacy in their respective pantheons, both associated with the celestial realm and regarded as the patriarchs of the gods, both going through successions and power struggles. Mythological narratives involving these deities, Enlil and Marduk, and the Greek pantheon feature these themes of succession and power struggles. These narratives depict the younger generation of gods overthrowing the older to establish their own dominion, Enlil surpassing Anu, Zeus dethroning Kronos. Generational dynamics observed in both mythologies, where the children rebel against and ultimately surpass their parents. This theme of succession and power transfer is significant in both Sumerian and Greek. Both emphasize the concept of cosmic order and the establishment of the divine hierarchy. Anu plays the role of maintaining cosmic order, while Zeus Ammon assumes a similar role. The gods are organized in a hierarchical structure, with specific deities assigned roles and responsibilities within their pantheons. The ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia and Greece had periods of contact and cultural exchange. This contact likely influences the mythology and religious beliefs of these civilizations. There is evidence to suggest that cultural and religious exchanges occurred between ancient civilizations. We have direct archaeological proof, without any doubt, that Greek scribes in the court of Alexander the Great at Babylon were still able to read, translate, write, and use cuneiform script, which was out of use by the time of the Roman Empire. Here is two examples of clay tablets written during the rule of Alexander the Great. The first clay tablet, shown here, figure 315, shows an astronomical tablet found at Babylon, which records events from the weeks prior and following the Battle of Gaugamela. It contains one entry that fixes the date of the battle at October 1st by the Julian calendar. The entries on the reverse side described Alexander's proclamations to Babylon, an entry into the city, a famous event in world history. The anonymous scribe who recorded these events refers to Darius as king of the world, and the entries leading up to the battle then gives the same title to Alexander in the entries that follow. Lastly is this right here, figure 728. The text of this Babylonian astronomical tablet supplies our most accurate date for the death of Alexander the Great, in a log entry designed to permit correlation of political and astronomical events. An anonymous scribe wrote in cuneiform for the date corresponding to June 11th on the Julian calendar. On this day, the King Alexander has died. So not only was the Ptolemies in Egypt able to still use ancient hieroglyphics during this period, but Greek academics in Babylon were using the most ancient cuneiform writing, and the Great Library of Alexandria had access to the most ancient of texts during this short-lived period, which is the same period that historians from the ancient world, such as Josephus and others, claim that the Bible was produced, known as the Septuagint, which means 70, the story being that 70 elders put together this text, using the most ancient sources from Heliopolis and Babylon. One can find certain parallels and similarities between specific deities, mythological themes in Sumerian and Greek mythology. Both Sumerian god Enlil and the Greek god Zeus are associated with the sky and are considered the chief gods in their respective pantheons. Zeus and Marduk are associated with thunder and display qualities of rulership and cosmic order. Scholars continue to explore these connections through comparative mythology, linguistic analysis, and the examination of archaeological and historical finds. The Babylonian zodiac and the Greek zodiac share a lot of overlap. Both zodiac systems are based on the division of the celestial sphere into 12 equal parts, each associated with specific constellations. The 12 signs are associated with certain animals, such as the lion, bull, scorpion, and goat. The Babylonians focused more on the constellations symbolic and astronomical significance rather than assigning them to specific deities. Each sign was connected to celestial omens and played a role in divination and astrology. The concept of precession of the equinox began in ancient Mesopotamia and was present among the Pelasgians and Egyptians, and later continued by the Greeks and Romans and even Hindus. This is a record of the period of the Earth's wobble in space, like an out-of-balance top. Each of the wobble takes about 25,765 years, divided up into 12, which is each astrological sign, shows the rising of the sun at dawn, which is roughly a 2,000-year period for each sign. Because of the slow change in our orientation of the stars, the position of the sun on the first day of spring, the vernal equinox, slowly shifts westward around the sky, which also moves it around our calendar. This is why we refer to this effect as the precession of the equinox, because the rate of the shift is 1 day for every 72 years. The position of the sun on the day of the vernal equinox is presently in the constellation of Pisces, near the border of Aquarius, which is the next age. The age of the ram and the bull predate the age of Pisces and are present in these ancient texts and even referenced by ancient historians such as Pliny the Elder, Berosus the Chaldean, and Diodorus of Sicily. The veneration of the solstices was also adopted by the Greeks from the ancient Mesopotamian and Pelasgians. Various ancient Greek calendars, such as the Attic calendar, show similar lunar cycles and start the New Year's during the spring rather than the winter, which is what the Babylonians and Sumerians also did. It is not until Julius Caesar adopts the solar calendar from the Egyptians in the 1st century BCE that this was changed. The Greek zodiac incorporates many elements from the Babylonian zodiac. For example, Aries is associated with the ram, and Taurus with the bull, Leo with the lion, and having 12 divisions such as the Babylonians. This allotment of the heavens as a calendar for measuring time plays into the base 60 counting system that was established by the Sumerians and adopted by the Greeks, and is still universally used in the world today. Scholars like Jean-Pierre Vernat and Walter Burkett have examined the shared motifs and narrative patterns between ancient Near Eastern mythologies, Sumerian, Babylonian, and Greek. They explore the archetypal themes and symbols that appear across different mythologies and potential cultural connections that could have contributed to these similarities. These scholars argue that the ancient civilizations had contact and cultural exchanges, which could have led to the dissemination and adaptation of mythological ideas. They propose that certain mythological motifs or figures might have been shared or influenced one another. The Greeks adopted and incorporated many of these Babylonian constellations into their own zodiac system. The constellation Taurus, who represents the bull, is associated with the divine bull that plays a significant role in Babylonian mythology, but later including the story of Zeus and Europa. Leo, the constellation of the lion, is also a Babylonian constellation, associated with the Nemean lion, a formidable beast in Greek mythology that Heracles defeats in one of his 12 labors. Scorpius represents the scorpion, recognized by the Babylonians. Scorpius is the one that stings Orion, leading to his death. The Babylonians knew this myth as the shepherd of Anu, the heavenly shepherd in the late Bronze Age, associated with the constellation of Anu, the god of the heavenly realms that I've mentioned. Egyptians associated with this constellation Osiris. Orion was identified with Unas, the last pharaoh of the 5th dynasty, who is said to have eaten the flesh of his enemies and devoured the gods to become great and bring inheritance of his power. According to this myth, Unas travels through the sky to become the star Orion. This myth passed down from the Sumerians from the constellation Ur-Inanna, Orion, meaning the light of heaven. Anu. The name of the Taurus constellation was Gud Anu, the bowl of heaven. These are brought down from the Hittites in the realm of Anatolia, passed down to the Ionians, and then eventually passed to the Greeks. And the Scorpius constellation that stings Orion becomes one of the 12 Greek constellations. Aquarius, the constellation, is the water bearer, also has its roots in Babylonian astronomy. It is associated with the god Ea, or Enki, the Sumerian god of wisdom and water, who pours forth life-giving waters. The Greeks later incorporated this constellation into their zodiac as Aquarius, the water bearer. Overall, these Greek adoptions of Babylonian constellations demonstrates the influence and exchange of astronomical knowledge between ancient civilizations. The merging of different celestial traditions helped shape the development of the Greek zodiac and all the other constellations that surround the zodiac. In Persian mythology, Ahura Mazda, the Zoroastrian deity, like Anu, is also considered powerful and significant, and the creator of heaven and earth. Ahura Mazda is depicted almost identical like Anu in his rock carvings, both shown with wings in the sky. Ahura Mazda is the supreme god of Zoroastrianism, represents the forces of good, light, and truth, wisdom, creation, moral cosmic order. These similarities between Sumerian Anu and Persian Ahura Mazda lie in their roles as the supreme deities within their respective pantheons. Both Anu and Ahura Mazda are regarded as the highest ranking gods. They occupy a position of supreme authority and rulership. Ahura Mazda, associated with the celestial realm, is described as the titan of wisdom, maintains the cosmic order, upholding divine laws that govern the universe, just as Anu does. And they are depicted as wise and just figures who ensure harmony and stability of the world. Later on, the god Allah, the one and only true God of Islam, takes on this role and is known as the Merciful One, a title given to Ahura Mazda. Enki, the Sumerian god, and Prometheus, a figure of Greek mythology, share certain similarities in their roles and actions. Both Enki and Prometheus are depicted as benefactors of humanity, actively involved in creation and advancement of human civilization, credited with bestowing knowledge and gifts upon humans for their betterment. Both Enki and Prometheus engage in acts of theft or deception to obtain sacred knowledge or resource from the divine realm. Enki in Sumerian mythology steals the divine decrees that govern various aspects of civilization. Prometheus in Greek mythology steals fire from the gods and gives it to humanity. Both Enki and Prometheus associated with teaching and empowering humanity against the will of other gods. Enki is known for giving knowledge and skills to humans, including agriculture, craftsmanship, and arts. Prometheus, through the gift of fire, enables human progress, providing them with the means to survive, metallurgy, alchemy, medicine, technology, and an advancement of civilization. Both Enki and Prometheus challenge divine authority and face repercussions for their actions, willing to sacrifice themselves for the betterment of humankind. Enki's actions in bestowing knowledge and power to humans can be seen as defying the established divine order laid down by Anu, while Prometheus' acts of stealing fire and sharing it with humanity defies the will of the Olympians and leads to his punishment. Both have the symbolism of sacrifice for the sake of humanity. Enki willingly sacrifices himself to heal the world and restore order. Prometheus endures eternal punishment for his actions, but does so in defiance of the gods' unjust treatment of humans. Both Enki and Prometheus are associated with saving humanity from a catastrophic flood in their respective myths. In the Sumerian story, known as the Eridu Genesis, which tells how Enki, the god of wisdom and water, warns a man named Ziostra about an impending flood, Enki advises Zuostra to build a large boat similar to the biblical Noah's Ark and gather various living creatures to preserve them. When the flood arrives, Enki helps Zuostra and his family survive by sealing the door of the boat and protecting them from the wrath of the gods. After the flood subsides, Enki grants him eternal life, making him the last survivor of the flood. Prometheus plays that role in the story of Deucalion and Pyrrha, who are Greek equivalents of Noah and his wife. According to the Greek flood myth, Zeus, like Enlil, decides to destroy humanity with a flood due to their wickedness. However, Prometheus, who is known for his cunning and sympathy for humans, warns his son Deucalion about this impending catastrophe. Following Prometheus's guidance, Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha build an ark and survive the flood. After the flood waters recede, Deucalion and Pyrrha repopulate the earth by throwing stones over their shoulders, which magically transform into human beings. This myth is also reflected in the story of Manu, the first man who survives the flood in Hindu mythology, and all three of these myths predate the story of Noah. The goddess Ishtar, a prominent figure in ancient Mesopotamian mythology, was indeed adopted by different cultures under different names and associations. The Greeks identified Ishtar with their own goddess Aphrodite and referred to her as Venus, while the Egyptians associated her with the goddess Isis. Ishtar was a powerful goddess in Mesopotamian mythology, associated with love, beauty, fertility, and war. When the Greeks encountered the worship of Ishtar during their interactions with the Near East, they found similarities between Ishtar and their own goddess of love and beauty, Aphrodite. The attributes and aspects of Ishtar were thus assimilated into the Greek pantheon, and she came to be known as the morning star, Venus, derived from the Roman counterpart of Aphrodite. Ishtar's associations with love, desire, and femininity were reflected in the characterization of Venus as the goddess of love and beauty in Roman and Greek mythology. The Egyptians encountered the worship of Ishtar during their interactions with Mesopotamia and recognized the same parallels between Ishtar and Isis. Both the goddesses are associated with feminine powers, fertility, and the protection of their pantheons. The Egyptians, known for incorporating deities from various cultures into their religious beliefs, assimilated Ishtar's characteristics and worship into their own existing pantheon, identifying her with the goddess Isis. The merging of Ishtar and Isis led to shared attributes and associations regarding fertility, motherhood, and magic. These cross-cultural associations and adoptions of deities often occurred through cultural exchanges, trade, conquest, and cultural diffusion. Different ancient civilizations would encounter and incorporate elements of other mythologies into their own religious beliefs, finding commonalities or aligning existing deities, synchronizing with foreign ones to bridge the gap between cultures and create religious continuity. Isis, the goddess of magic, fertility, and motherhood. Her story revolves around her husband Osiris, who was murdered by his brother Set out of jealousy. Isis embarks on a quest to find the scattered body parts of Osiris and reassembles them, using her own magical powers to revive him temporarily. Through her love, devotion, and magical prowess, Isis is able to conceive a child with Osiris named Horus, who goes on to avenge his father's death and become a prominent deity himself. Isis is revered for her role in preserving the life and lineage of Osiris and ensuring his resurrection in the afterlife. In Mesopotamian mythology, the story of Ishtar and her husband Tammuz reflects a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Like Osiris, Tammuz dies and descends into the underworld, causing Ishtar to mourn his loss and descend into the realm of the dead to rescue him. During her journey, the earth becomes barren and lifeless. Eventually, Ishtar negotiates with the gods of the underworld and successfully brings Tammuz back to life, restoring fertility and vitality to the world. This myth symbolizes the changing seasons and cyclical nature of life and death. Both Isis and Ishtar are associated with saving their husbands from death. Isis actively seeks to resurrect Osiris and ensures the continuation of his legacy through their son Horus. Ishtar's descent into the underworld saves Tammuz, which represents the restoration of life and fertility in the natural world and springtime. Demeter, the grain goddess central to the Eleusinian mysteries, along with Dionysus, is also associated with fertility, agriculture, and the cycles of nature. Like Ishtar and Dumuzi, Demeter is primarily known for her role in ensuring the fertility of the earth, the growth of the crops, and the abundance of the harvest. Ishtar is also associated with the fertility of the land and considered a patroness of agriculture. Both goddesses have associations with motherhood. Demeter is the mother of Persephone, and her grief over Persephone's abduction by Hades is central to the myth of the changing seasons. Ishtar is also associated with motherhood and has been depicted as a nurturing and protective figure. Life, death, and rebirth. Demeter and Ishtar are both connected to the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Demeter's grief over the loss of her daughter Persephone leads to the barrenness of the earth in the winter, symbolizing the dormant period of plant life. Ishtar's descent into the underworld to rescue her husband Tammuz is the story of planting the seeds into the ground that come up as new life. The story of death and rebirth. The old plant that's dying gives up its seeds into the ground. The seeds go into the underworld and rise up again, representing the cyclical nature of life and the changing seasons. These similarities may reflect broader patterns and themes found in ancient mythologies, where different cultures sought to explain and celebrate the natural world for its cycles through the respective deities. The connections between Demeter and Ishtar may arise from these shared mythological motifs, rather than from direct cultural or historical influence. A recent discovery shows a direct connection between Ishtar and the goddess Venus. In June of 2014, Isis captured Mosul and seeded its influence across the surrounding area and set out to systematically destroy archaeological site of the Temple of Ishtar at Nimrud, demolishing the ruins with sledgehammers, bombs, and diggers. Thankfully, though, archaeologists have recently been able to return to this site at Nimrud. Early this year, archaeologists continued work on the Temple of Ishtar, which burned when Nimrud was sacked by an invading army in 612 BCE. Chief among their finds was a fragment of large stone monument that depicts the goddess Ishtar inside an 8-pointed star symbol. Dr. Michael Dante says, "Our greatest find this season was a spectacular fragment from the stone stele that shows the goddess Ishtar inside a star symbol. This is the first unequivocal depiction of the goddess Ishtar Sharat Nefi, a divine aspect of the goddess associated with the rising of the planet Venus, the morning star, to be found in this temple dedicated to her." Dr. Michael Dante, Program Director of the Iraq Heritage Stabilization Program, an archaeologist at the University of Pennsylvania. The goddess Ishtar and Aphrodite are both represented by this exact 8-pointed star, which is called Lucifer, which shows how influential this goddess is among the ancient world. This is a symbol practically universal across the entire ancient world. Venus is depicted in Greco-Roman myths as being in love with Adonis. The mythological figure of Tammuz, a Mesopotamian god associated with fertility and vegetation, and the cycle of life and death, has certain similarities with Adonis. Adonis being an adoption of Tammuz by the Greeks and Phoenicians, for the role of Adonis can be seen as an example of cultural influence and assimilation of mythological concepts, both connected to vegetation and seasons. Tammuz is often depicted as the dying and resurrecting god, whose death in the winter leads to the withering of vegetation, while his return in the spring brings renewal and fertility. Adonis, similarly, is associated with the cycle of nature and is known for his beauty. His death and subsequent rebirth are tied to the seasons, his absence during the winter symbolizing barrenness of the earth, and his return in the spring signifying the renewal of life in nature. When Adonis dies in a hunting accident, Venus weeps over him, and her tears cause flowers to grow. Mourning and lamentation. Both Tammuz and Adonis are mourned by their respective goddesses, Venus and Ishtar. In Mesopotamian mythology, Ishtar mourns the death of Tammuz, descending into the underworld to rescue him, but in Greek mythology, Aphrodite mourns the death of Adonis and is depicted in the state of grief. The mourning of these goddesses is linked to the sadness and loss associated with the absence of their loved ones and the impact it has on the natural world. The book of Ezekiel shows how central and widespread this weeping over the dead god was. Ezekiel 8:14 says, "And then he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the house of the Lord, and I saw women sitting there, weeping for Tammuz." Tammuz and Adonis are often depicted as youthful and beautiful figures. Their beauty is celebrated and contributes to their status as objects of desire. Their association with youthful and vitality and attractiveness connects them to themes of love. The similarities in their attributes and roles may have resonated with the Greeks, leading to the assimilation of Tammuz into their pantheon under the guise of Adonis. Bacchus, who is also known as Dionysus, is a deity from Greek mythology associated with the wine, agriculture, growing vines, death, fertility, ecstasy, and the arts. He is the prince and son of Zeus, the king of the gods. Tammuz, on the other hand, is a god from Mesopotamia, associated with fertility, vegetation, cycle of life and death, also a prince, and the shepherd god. Both Bacchus and Tammuz are associated with fertility and the abundance of nature. Bacchus is depicted with vines and grapes, symbolizing the growth and abundance of vineyards. Tammuz is also associated with vegetation and the cycle of fertility, where his death leads to the withering of plants, and rebirth, the regrowing of plants. Bacchus and Tammuz both have aspects of dying and returning to life. Bacchus has a myth called the Bacchae, where he is torn apart by titans, but is resurrected and achieves divine immortality. As mentioned earlier, Tammuz also has his own descent in return from the underworld. Both Bacchus and Tammuz are associated with ecstatic and celebratory rituals. Bacchus is known for his association with revelry, wine, an ecstatic state of his followers, known as the Bacchic frenzy or Dionysian rites. Tammuz is honored through rituals involving mourning and ecstatic celebrations in the ancient Mesopotamian festivals. These similarities between Bacchus and Tammuz reflect broader patterns found in ancient mythologies. Different cultures sought to explain and celebrate the cycles of nature, fertility, and the human experience itself. To return back to the topic of the supreme god, as Ouranos parallels Anu, they both are succeeded in their kingship by the new gods that come after them. This could signify the ages of time and the inevitable evolution of constant, eternal renewal in nature and progress in society. Eventually, Marduk becomes the chief god of the Babylonian pantheon, and Saturn, a prominent figure in Roman mythology, both represented by the star Saturn in the sky, or planet Saturn. In Roman mythology, they share similarities in their mythologies, particularly in their roles as powerful deities and their associations with kingship. Saturn is the king of Elysium, where all the good souls dwell after death. Both Marduk and Saturn are considered supreme deities in their respective myths. Marduk is the head of the Babylonian pantheon, patron god of the city of Babylon. Saturn, also known as Saturnus in Latin, is one of the major gods of the Roman pantheon and had the biggest temple in Rome, where all the riches and money was located as the central bank of Rome. Marduk is credited with creating the world and establishing the order of the universe. He is depicted as a royal, heroic figure, embodying the qualities of the divine king, while Saturn in Roman mythology is associated with the Golden Age, a mythical period of peace and prosperity, ruled by a virtuous king. He is also believed to have introduced agriculture and civilization to humanity. Both Marduk and Saturn are depicted as these particular powerful deities. Marduk's most famous myth is the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, in which he defeats the primordial goddess Tiamat, establishes his supremacy over the gods, while Saturn overthrows his father Uranos, the personification of the heaven, to become the ruler of the cosmos. Both Marduk and Saturn have associations with time and chronology. Marduk is associated with the concept of time in the Enuma Elish as he divides the heavens and establishes the calendar, while Saturn in Roman mythology is the god of time, and he's associated with the concept of time as he's depicted with the scythe, symbolizing the passage of time. The parallels may arise from these shared themes and archetypes, as they're both identified with the same central location in the sky, being the planet Saturn. In Hindu mythology, it is Indra who plays this role. Both Jupiter and Indra are associated with thunder and lightning, just as Baal in Canaanite mythology is associated with thunder and lightning and is the rider on the clouds, just like Jupiter and Indra. And all three of these gods succeed a god that came before them. Jupiter, also known as Jove, is considered the king of the gods in Roman mythology and wields thunderbolts as his weapon. Just as Indra and Baal, all these deities are depicted as wielding thunderbolts, riding on the clouds and having dominion over the forces of nature. Jupiter is revered as the supreme god, leader of the Olympians against the Titans, and brings justice and cosmic order, while Indra in Hinduism is the chief of the Devas against the Asuras, and also for justice and cosmic order. Due to all of this, the most ancient god, Anu, and the oldest mentioned by any surviving text, who influences Uranos, which becomes the Greek word for heaven itself, directly impacts religions today. Thank you for joining us in this captivating journey through the rich tapestry of Mesopotamian and Greek mythology, from the grandeur of the mighty gods like Anu and Zeus, to the intriguing tales of heroes like Enki, Prometheus, and the morning star Ishtar, and many others. We have explored the fascinating intersections and parallels between these ancient pantheons. But our exploration has only just begun. The world of ancient myths is vast and ever unfolding, promising further wonders and revelations. In our next episode, we shall embark on a new adventure, delving even deeper into the enchanting realms of ancient mythologies. Brace yourselves as we unravel more captivating stories, draw more connections, and uncover the hidden threads that bind these ancient civilizations together. So, my friends, be prepared to immerse yourself in the mesmerizing world of myths, where gods and mortals intertwine, where legends are born, where timeless wisdom awaits us. Join us in our next installment as we continue our odyssey through the ancient tapestry of human imagination. Until then, may the ancient gods guide your path, may the mysteries of the past illuminate your present, and may the allure of the ancient world keep you yearning for more. Stay tuned for the next episode where the secrets of the ancients shall be revealed. You have just attained true gnosis.